Inspired talks of Swami Vivekananda, Pranam Mantra. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Swamiji was talking to his disciples on Sunday, July 28th, from Avadhut Gita. Just to remind you, Avadhut was a great sage, Dattatreya, and we find his reference in Bhagavatam also, where he says that he had his life lessons from 24 gurus. Sri Ramakrishna also mentions some of these gurus, and very interesting episode in Bhagavatam. But this Avadhut Gita, it's a completely different work. It's a work of it's a very high level of Advaita, pure Advaita. Advaita is such an interesting thing. See, we in India have been hearing of Advaita, most of us, since our childhood. We don't understand much of Advaita, particularly when we are young and we have not studied books. But when I became a monk and started understanding a bit of Advaita, my only feeling was, which I can talk very freely, is that I took to Advaita something like a very high flying bird hatching from the egg and going on its seamless, unending flight. Seamless, because Advaita doesn't have any kind of roots and branches. It doesn't have mileposts. It doesn't have milestones. Seamless experience and boundless. There's just no end to it. Because you don't have to assume anything in Advaita. It's so logical and so fulfilling. When we find the masters talking about God, when we find masters talking about Sri Krishna and Ram and Shiva, nothing wrong with it, because they are all forms of Advaita. Nothing wrong with it. Understanding Advaita is slightly difficult. When it comes to the hardcore Advaita, where it's, you can say, Shuddha Advaita. One unfortunate thing about Advaita is that most teachers, they present Advaita wrongly and they think Advaita is one. Advaita is not one. Advaita is beyond one and two. And Advaita is not zero. Advaita does not deny this world, the world in which we are. The world is denied by dualists, and the world is denied by the Buddhists. Advaita is the only system of spiritual philosophy that does not deny the world. Shockingly, it's Advaita which is blamed for denying this world. So you can understand how unfortunate. Similarly, we have these gods and demigods and celestial things. Their importance is denied by the dualists. Advaita doesn't deny them. Everything has a place in Advaita. And the dualists will deny Advaita. Advaita never denies dualism, because till you are within the realm of mind, even if you have your Advaita realization, if you are in this body, God is very much true for you. And once you are immersed in that pure non-duality, then the such questions do not arise. When I used to talk to my teacher, particularly Swami Mokshadanji Maharaj, Ram Maharaj, I used to ask him lots of questions. Like, you also may be having lots of questions. And I remember one answer from him. He would always comment, now look, once again you have fallen in the pit of dualism. Because whenever you ask, You think you are asking questions on Advaita. Unfortunately, your questions are invariably on Dvaita. It takes time to understand. Advaita is slightly subtle. It's not difficult. Actually, you should listen to our Manduki Karika talks, which are already there. And if you can, somehow, if you can like those talks, if you can like the subject, you'll fall in love. You will fall in love of Advaita forever. You will never be misled by this and that philosophy. We had read the initial lines that Swamiji has spoken. And then Swami says, there is neither existence nor non-existence. All is Atman. Those of you who are more interested in understanding the statement, you can listen to our Nasadiya Sukta talk. You will find that in Hinduism series, there is Nasadiya Sukta in Ved. There we have discussed it in detail. Just now I said that Advaita does not deny this world. And Swamiji says that according to Advaita, there is neither existence nor non-existence. This comes from na sadu asit, na sad asit. There was neither non-existence nor existence. Actually, in that state of Advaita, mind and senses do not work. And to know that something is present, you need to have mind and senses. When I say this pen is here, my mind and senses are working. When I'm affirming that this is pen, it's through my mind. If there is no mind, there is no way to say that this pen exists. And if I say that this pen is not a snake, when I'm denying the existence of snake in it, then again I need my mind. Now, before creation, what was there we cannot say? When we find scriptures talking about God alone existed, these are all just to make us understand. Understand what? That you will not fall in the pit of negation, negative understanding, like the Buddhists did. They said, Shunyava, there is nothing. It's not nothing. Whatever is, we cannot affirm either this or that. Discussion will continue. Just remember this much very ordinary thing. Whatever was, it was. You cannot say that it existed. You cannot say that it did not exist. You cannot say it was good. You cannot say it was bad. You cannot say it was pure. You cannot say it was impure or is. Any idea of duality, because see, we all think in terms of duality. That's one very serious problem with the mind. Mind is more like a weighing scale, and in this weighing scale, it always compares. And while comparing, generally, once compared, objects are pigeonholed. Good, bad. An object and its opposite. Till it's not pigeonholed, things remain relative. Actually, things are relative. Swami says all is Atman. Shake off all ideas of relativity. Just now we mentioned relativity. When we say good and bad, we are actually talking of relativity. When we are talking about birth and death, talking about relativity. Excepting for a very small group of enlightened Hindus, it is impossible for anyone to grasp this. Surprisingly, there are quite a few statements in Bible, New Testament, that talk about Advaita, but Christians do not interpret those statements the way those should be. Shake off all superstitions. What superstition? See, normally when you hear the word superstition, you think of believing in this, believing in no. Everything is superstition. Your body is superstition. Your mind is superstition. Your feelings are superstition. Your love is superstition. Your hatred is superstition. Your disease is superstition, and you're getting cured is superstition. Your children are superstition, your parents are superstition. Everything, everything that the mind can grasp is a superstition. Dear listeners, do you think that a common man can take this? And because the mind can take God, mind prays to God, mind can think of God. God is a superstition. Can you say God is superstition? God is superstition, there's no doubt about it. But not the way we understand superstition, but rather in an entirely different way. Let caste and birth endeavors and all else vanish. Because in India, Jati, where you are born, and the birth, the families, and the gods, they're all superstitions, they are meaningless. Why talk of being and becoming? One common idea is we keep on talking about becoming this and that, achieving this and that, having this and that goal, etc., etc. First, let go of that, just being. But when we talk about being, it automatically implies non being. Being, non being. That means the idea of being also will not be there. What is, is. You cannot say it's a state of being. Swami Vivekananda also uses words like being and becoming here and there to convey certain ideas to us. But when you're talking about Advait, when you're talking about pure Advait, no question of being and becoming. You are that. Give up talking about dualism and Advaitism. There is no dualism, there is no Advaitism. All these things are products of mind. When we were kids, our mind could conjure up creatures out of darkness. When we saw shadows, we saw creatures in them. I hear that American kids see monsters. Here in India, we have ghosts and different kinds of creatures. Just like that, class, caste, duties, parentage, progeny, everything is superstition. Worse, even the idea of worship, the practice of yoga, practice of anything, study of scriptures, everything is superstition from the standpoint of Advaita. There's a very famous incident in the life of Richard Feynman. I love his life because it's only his life that, other than Einstein, of course, whose life is pretty popular because he wrote wonderful books like Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, What Do You Care What People Say? And these are beautiful books that gives you insight in the scientist's mind. Now, he had worked on Manhattan Project, nuclear bomb project. And during that period, his wife died because of TB, tuberculosis. And he had seen that nuclear explosion from close quarters. And then there was Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing. And his friends described that once he returned, he came back to teaching. He became extremely pessimist. He would look at the great cities, think of New York and all, and he would just say that it just needs a nuclear bomb to drop and everything will be over. Life appeared so meaningless to him. And see now, it's roughly 70, 80 years, fortunately. no atomic bomb has been exploded. But a person who has been deeply involved in such a project, who understands the consequences, he'll know what it means to. He will know that we are talking so much about future. Does it really matter? Those of you might have read that science fiction book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Is a beautiful book. So, according to that book, there's a gentleman living in a small city, and some work is going on. And he has made friends with someone. He's actually an alien. And he keeps telling that, look, don't you worry. Nothing will remain at such and such hour. Why? So the idea is a super highway is being constructed between the galaxies, and the earth is on this path, and the earth will be annihilated. So don't pay attention to all these things that you are. And actually that happens. And that's the story about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And this gentleman, he is making entries in an encyclopedia, and he has to write something about inhabitants of the earth. And the gentleman writes just one word about the inhabitants of earth. Uninteresting. And after a lot of thought, he adds one more word, mostly. I laughed and laughed. Actually, it's basically a very humorous book. It takes up science and then it still talks about life. So funny. Now think of someone who has experienced Advaita, or who has got a thorough and logical understanding of Advaita. How he will look at life? It's also meaningless, because Atman alone exists. God alone exists. Why are we shedding tears? Why are we enjoying something? We have to be beyond laughter. We have to be beyond tears. Because I alone exist. For you, you alone exist. Not you as person, not you as mind, but you as Atman. When were you two that you talk of 2 to 1? Friends, dear listeners, I appreciate that you have been listening to this series of talks. I respect your diligence. You just need to go one step further. You need to try to grasp what is being said. We often talk about oneness. We talk about love of God. We talk about oneness with God. But if there never was any two, where comes the question of two becoming one? Just look at love. What is love? Two persons love, and their love increases, and they say that our love is increasing day by day. It increases further, increases more. And they become so unified in their love that ultimately two goes away, one remains, and that one also goes away, only love remains. Looking back, then what is love? Love is that which exists. It just creates two bodies to experience itself. Love can experience itself, but it also wants to test itself as two. It becomes two friends. It becomes mom and kid. It becomes two lovers. It becomes husband and wife and tests itself. But in all such cases, is it that two became one? No, no, no. It was love all alone. So even saying that two became one is wrong. When we say Satchidananda, it's an expression so that we can grasp something. It's not Satchidananda, not, not a name, not an indicator. It's a suggestion. The universe is this Holy One, and He alone. Now, see, what is this universe? It's not His creation. Universe is not His creation. Universe is He. It is God alone who is manifesting itself as this microphone and as this pen, as Samarpanananda. Believe me, it's too profound. It's too profound. If you are sitting on a sea beach, watching the waves, you get so immersed in watching, that you keep looking at waves and you forget that there is an ocean. And if your mind goes for the ocean, don't don't observe the waves. When we were discussing Devbani in early days, no, Swamiji was repeatedly talking about it. There's no wave, there's only ocean. So when we talk about human beings and this creature and that creature, it's all manufacture of mind. It's God alone. Talk not of yoga to make you pure. You are pure by very nature. None can teach you. Who can teach you? Your knowledge itself. When we talk about all strength is within you, when we say all knowledge is within you, actually we are misguiding you. Your knowledge itself, your strength itself, your existence itself, your purity itself. Purity is the construct of mind. Do you know what is exploitation? Many of us might have been exploited when we were kids, when we were growing up, or even today. Exploitation is when somebody creates a fake image before us of fear, or the possibility of losing someone, or the possibility of gaining something. It creates a fake picture. When people want to sell mattresses, the advertisement doesn't talk about a good sleep, they'll say that beautiful dreams. You're faking it. What has your mattress to do with dreams or other related things? Nothing. Then you go for it. Mind is that great advertising agency. it creates fakes. It creates fake necessities. It creates fake desires. No, it fakes so well that the desire comes in your mind to overcome certain things and gain certain things, and you're running after it. This has been very beautifully illustrated in the famous example of, most of you might be knowing, those who have studied those a bit of Puranas. When there was Samudra Manthan, poison came out halahal, and Lord Shiva took that poison and he became unconscious. And that's how he saved the world. Later, when Lord Shiva came to know that Lord Vishnu had taken up the form of Mohini, the enchantress, and enchanted the demons, he wanted to see that form. So, Lord Shiva and his consort Parvati, they went to Lord Vishnu and said, I want to see your that Mohini form. And Lord Vishnu kept telling, come on, you are Lord Shiva, you burn down Kama. How can you be enchanted by me? Is it possible? No, but Lord Shiva kept insisting. And suddenly, everything vanished. It was not Vishnu Lok anymore. There were no gods, no goddesses, no Parvati, nothing. And suddenly, Lord Shiva saw that one beautiful, exquisite piece of art, whatever you say, a lady. And Lord Shiva got enchanted. And he started running after her, etc., etc. And the bottom line is that after some time, suddenly Lord Shiva came back to senses. What am I doing? And suddenly he found that he's standing where he was. Parvati is standing by side. He was so embarrassed. And Lord Vishnu says beautifully, O Lord Shiva, it's only you who could come out of this Maya, of this temptation. It's beyond anyone else to break through my Maya. The idea is that even Lord Shiva could be tempted. Of course, I mean, these are stories and not to be taken seriously. And Lord Shiva was so upset with himself that he left the place right away. Mind conjures up. Wherever you see beauty, wherever you see objects of attraction, whatever attracts you, it's just your mind conjuring up because there is fire. Fire burns everybody. Fire doesn't discriminate whether it's a kid or an old man. But beauty discriminates. Or rather, we discriminate beauty. What is beautiful to a pair of eyes may seem hideous to others. What a young man sees as an object of complete desire, a baby is not tempted. And for that baby, it might so be that lady's baby's mom. Relationship is entirely different. There is something seriously wrong with beauty. What? It's a creation of mind. And everything else is creation of mind. Our pains, our sorrows, our pleasures, our happiness, our tears, our laughter, everything, just creation of mind. And all these things ultimately affect our personalities. We think we are impure, and because we are impure, we need to study. Because we feel we don't have knowledge, we need to study. And we feel we don't have strength, so we want to acquire strength. But worst, worst, even preached by different scriptures and religions, is that you are impure. Christianity went a step further, telling that you are a born sinner. Christians can never come out of this idea that you are not a born sinner, that you are a born sinner. And even if you forget Christianity, you come to Hindus. Hindus have a complete mania for purity. Hindus, I mean religious people, always sprinkling water and Gangajal and this. And as for nature is concerned, Gayatri mantra itself, Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. This mantra is meant to bring purity, apart from other things. There are Upanishadic mantras that may my sins committed at night be cleansed. May my sins committed at daytime be cleansed. You're pure, you're totally pure. How does it matter with you? Because impurity automatically implies addition of something. There is pure water. You add something, unless you add something, it cannot become impure. If you alone exist, how can you ever be impure? If there is that ocean of pure water, there is a lake of pure water, how can you impure it? First, you need to put something, some poison, some dirt. And think of say North Pole. There's only snow, 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 of pure water. And there's a lake. How can you dirty it? And there is no second thing. Who can who can impure you? Who can make you impure? There's no way. And actually, you, me, he, she, everyone is purity itself. By our very nature, we are pure. So even if this idea of impurity comes, we should drive it away. Okay, I did some mistakes. So what? Somebody didn't like, you didn't like, society didn't like. So what? As they say in English, it's not a very good expression. To hell with it. I did, finish. Go, get lost. See, there are two extremely dangerous things for human beings: conflict situation and guilt. Always try to make a choice and move on. Move on. Never be in a conflict situation. It will kill you. And never carry any guilt. Never. These two things are terrible, terrible. And they can ruin the best of personalities. Swami said, none can teach you. It's from Avadhut Gita. So then Swamiji moves on to Avadhut. Men like him who wrote this song are what keep religion alive. In India, religion is alive because we have saints like Dattatreya, Tulsidas, Surdas, saints from Maharashtra, saints from Tamil Nadu, saints from Karnataka, saints from all over India who have written such beautiful things. And these are not poetry. These are the highest flights of mind in the realm of God. They have actually realized they care for nothing, feel nothing done to the body, care not for heat and cold or danger or anything. They sit still and enjoy the bliss of Atman while red hot coals burn their body and they feel them not. Once once you can take your mind away from your body, away from your really mind and put it in God, naturally you will not feel anything. Even otherwise, see, sometimes when we are absorbed in something, say even in watching movies, watching some very engrossing serial, mosquito sits and we don't even feel. But when you're fidgety, even when mosquito starts buzzing, you note it. It's all about awareness. As you become aware of your surroundings, you become aware of everything, of the sound and everything. Once your awareness goes to something else, you won't feel a snake passing over your body, and the snake will not feel that it's a human body. When the threefold bondage of knower, knowledge, and known ceases, there is the Atman. Under normal conditions, there is the subject, one who acts, one who does. And there is the act itself, and there is an object. Subject, object, act. These three things make this world. Similarly, we have knower, this knower, knowledge, and known. Thing that is known. Here is this pen. Pen is that object. I'm knowing this pen. I am there, the pen is there, and this knowledge is there. As your mind becomes more and more concentrated, the mental waves, the mental functions that create the awareness of knowledge, they cease. And when finally the mind ceases, then according to you, at that time, you become what you are, Swarupa Avasthan. Depending on what is your stand, you can say that which remains is pure knowledge, as said in Satchidananda, Chit Chaitanya. And sometimes it's known as knower, Atman. Never the known, of course. So, depending on how you look at it. This threefold division of subject, object, action, these three merge and become one. Where the delusion of bondage and freedom ceases, there the Atman is. And in that state, the idea of bondage, the idea of freedom, these two cease. Why? Because even the idea of freedom is a bondage, is delusion. Wonderful thing of Gita. And poetically, Avadut Gita says, what if you have controlled the mind? What if you have not? What if you have money? What if you have not? You are the Atman, ever pure. If you have achieved something, how does it matter? If you haven't achieved, how does it matter? After all, you are Atman. Say, you are the Atman, ever pure. You are ever pure. Say, I am the Atman. No bondage ever came near me. I am the changeless sky. Clouds of belief may pass over me, but they do not touch me. The floating clouds do not contaminate the sky, the body and mind. They cannot contaminate the soul. And that's why you are ever pure, ever pure. Burn virtue, burn vice. Freedom is baby talk. Freedom is baby talk. I am the immortal knowledge. I am that purity. So when Swamiji talks about Advaita as immortal knowledge, as I said, when we personify it, we say Atman, we say knower, and we say God. But actually, it's knowledge, Chaitanya, consciousness, pure consciousness. So, depending on how you want to present it before the crowd, before the audience, the terms used are different. I am that purity because knowledge cannot be contaminated. Pure knowledge can never be contaminated. I am that. I am that pure knowledge, so I am pure. No one was ever bound, none was ever free. It's so shocking, huh? No one was ever no one was ever a sinner. No one was ever pure. That alone existed. That alone existed about whom you can neither say sinner nor virtuous. Nor can you say that there was any bondage. Nor you can say there ever was freedom. One example they often use is of sun. Somebody who is living in or on the sun, he cannot understand what is night. And because he cannot understand what is night, he cannot understand day. To understand the idea of day and night, you have to be on the earth. There is none but me. I am the infinite, they were free. Talk not to me. What can change me? The essence of knowledge. Who can teach? Who can be taught? So why talk to me? Nobody can teach you. Actually, nobody can teach you. What is given is some information. What is given is certain suggestions. Finished. Throw argument, throw philosophy into the ditch. But, dear audience, these things are spoken from extremely high standpoint. And if a beginner who has not been trained properly, who has not worked hard to reach this level of understanding, they listen to these things, they read these things, and they conclude wrongly. They think that anyone can do it. No, you cannot. The path to heaven is through hell. If you want to go to the heaven, you have to go through the hell. As Yudhishthira had to. That's a mandatory thing. If you want to reach that state of non-duality, you have to go through duality. You have to prepare your mind for that. If you don't prepare your mind for that, whole thing will collapse. The system will collapse. Only a slave sees slaves. The deluded, delusion. The impure, impurity. Why do we see impurity around us? Because we are impure. Why do we consider people are in pathetic situation? Because we are pathetic. Very often when people meet us, those who knew us but do not understand the monastic way of life, they kind of get shocked. How we lead this solitary life, how we stay all alone, etc., etc. And my invariable answer is that, dear friends, I also feel shocked how you live with the crowd. There is a very interesting story about one gentleman. He had some problem with his ears, and he had been deaf practically since his birth. Not practically, from his birth. When he grew up and it was found that he was deaf, so doctors made examination. They realized that it just needed a minor operation and he could be cured. And he was cured. And the gentleman, he was so shocked by all the noise around him that he ran to the doctor and said, "Doctor, please perform the operation and make me deaf once again. I cannot live in this ocean of noise." Place, time, causations are all delusions. Obviously, because these are all construct of the mind. It is a disease that you think you're bound and will be free. This is the ultimate disease, and that's why great teachers, incarnations, they are addressed as the doctors of Bhavarog, of this worldly disease of the world. You are the unchangeable. Talk not, sit down, and let all things melt away. When we talk about meditation, it's about letting things melt away. Very often people talk about meditation, and everybody wants to learn meditation, everybody wants to reach the state of Advaita. How do you do it? By letting things melt away. By letting the objects that enter you through different senses melt away. And slowly you will realize this only oneness, stillness. They are but dreams. There is no differentiation, no distinction. It's all superstition. Therefore, be silent and know what you are. So, all these discussions that we are having, all these things we are learning, they are all useless unless you sit down, be calm, be silent, let things melt down, and let stillness prevail. Ocean is the truth. Waves is a delusion. Stillness is the truth. Forms are delusion. I am the essence of bliss. Follow no ideal. You are all there is. Mind it, Dattatreya, the great sage of Dattatreya is talking these things from very high standpoint. Listen to these things. Make a note of these things, mental note. Absorb as much as you can. Try to practice inclusiveness and oneness as much as you can. But don't stretch it too much because you'll make mistakes. Fear not. You are the essence of existence. Be at peace. Be at peace. As we mentioned in the beginning, as kids, we were scared of shadows. Once we have grown up, we have come out of the delusion. Just in the same way we grow up spiritually, we surely can go beyond the delusion that is world. Do not disturb yourself. We normally say, please do not disturb. We say, do not disturb yourself. Actually, we are disturbing ourselves. You never in bondage. You never were in bondage. You never were virtuous or sinful. Get rid of all these delusions and be at peace. Be at peace. Whom to worship? Who worships? All is the Atman. Once you know that there is pure consciousness, there is nothing else, who will worship? How he will worship? Whom he will worship or she? To speak, to think is superstition because these belong to the mind. Repeat over and over, I am the Atman, I am Atman. Let everything else go. That's why the only sadhana that Advaita permits is neti neti. Let go of everything that's there. Let everything fall away. Let everything melt away. So, well, that's what Swamiji was talking from Avadut Gita. And Then it was that was a Sunday when Swami was discussing all this. And we move over to Monday, July 29, 1895. We'll take up this talk.